Hello, comic book fans, and welcome back to the Comic Lyric podcast, where we comically
and literally
review comics. I'm Ryan, also known as Comic Stan. I love comic books, but my co-host loves regular books, so I make him read comic books. And this week, I made him read some of the weirdest Superman stories you'll ever read.
You did me fucking dirty this week, man.
I literally was like, we talked about it last week.
With the exception of one of these, they were all hot garbage.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because there's one clear standout, right?
Yeah, but we might we might have different ideas about that, so... I don't know. We haven't talked about quality yet. We've only done admin for this.
Yeah, we have. We've done a bit of admin, and now we're getting into it. So,
forgive me for not introducing also my aforementioned weird co-host. It's Jamie.
Yo, what's up, people? So, I'm taking over the intro this month. I'm just doing it.
The intro's done. We're out of the intro.
Well, I know, but the preamble.
Okay, yeah.
So Ryan made me read a bunch of weird Superman comics from the 1960s. Largely?
Yes. All except one, I think, from the 1960s.
So is there one from the 70s as well?
The one from the 70s is the one that the first one that we get. The second one we'll get into, it's Superman versus Muhammad Ali. It's from the 70s.
So that was the standout for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that was definitely different because it was out of decade.
So fucking cool, man.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good for what it was. And in a celebrity cameo superhero comic.
Yeah, I know, but it's fucking Muhammad Ali. He's like such a cool dude.
And we'll get into it, but it's not the first one we're going to talk about, is it?
No.
Because the first one we're going to talk about kind of encapsulates why these are all awful.
Power creep.
Yes. And even a weird kind of power creep because he doesn't even have the powers at the end. So it's like, why did you bother? So all these are from the 60s, right? These are just some of the weirdest Superman comics, which I actually did get a little help from an article on the actual DC website.
Right, cool.
Named Let's Get Crazy, 8 of the Most Bizarre Superman Stories Ever Told by Mason Downey.
Downey.
This time we're crediting the article writer who compiled this list. So I've just picked some of the weirdest ones out of this list, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to do a couple of this episode, maybe a couple in a future episode that might come out at some point, but we don't know when.
Yeah, maybe. Like, we might revisit this.
Yes.
You know?
I'll tell you what, we'll make a promise to the listeners. We will revisit this at some point.
Are we potentially going to revisit this maybe when I'm on paternity leave?
Who's to know?
Is there also going to be potentially a second episode recorded right now?
Who's to say? It's a mystery.
Maybe we've already recorded it.
Maybe this is the part 2. We'll make it sound like part 1 for no reason.
That's not what's happened.
No, but it's close. Anyway, so in this list of crazy Superman stories, most of them are from the 60s.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, it seems to be, and I'm far from an expert, what limited relevant knowledge.
Ryan?
Yes. What limited relevant knowledge I have, I'm applying to this, right?
Yeah.
So, what happened is by the 60s, Superman had existed since 39, 38. Like, he'd been around for 39. A while. And I think at this point, they were like, the comics were doing well, like, he was a popular character, like, he was
He was a staple, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was considered the first superhero, even though he technically wasn't.
Really
he was
wasn't,
just the first best one. So at this point, they're like, these comics are doing really hot. We need to churn out these stories, get them out. And I think at this one, they were like, oh shit, what do we do now?
Yeah.
But they were having it at a time when they were like, we actually haven't defined this world and like what's happening and stuff. And also, most of these comics are bought by kids and they don't really care because they're just picking up an issue whenever they can.
Yeah.
So at this point, the problems start to set out where it's like, oh no, we've given him like 5 different powers like all of last month and new characters, and we've redone his backstory like several times. So at this period is what led to, in the 80s, them going, we need to reboot this entire fucking universe.
Yeah.
So we're gonna Final Crisis it, get it all out, throw it there, restart, define what's happening with everything, right?
And then kind of start to have this style guide about what you can and can't do with Superman, right? Which is very much the way that he operates now. Like there's parameters within which you can't take him.
Yeah, except they do still keep taking him in those parameters because history repeats itself.
Yeah.
There was a point, I was trying to remember earlier, there was a point, I think, where you came to me and were like, have you seen Superman's got a new power? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, they do that like once every couple of years.
That happens every once in a while.
Exactly. And the same pitfalls. They're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And you get a writer who's not as good at writing like, heartfelt,
Yeah.
invested stories. So he's like, fuck it, new power.
Or they write themselves into a corner and they create a problem that he can't fix, but he's Superman, so he needs to fix it. New power.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they're like, what if we took his powers away for a bit, but the way we take his powers away is that he has a new power that when he uses so powerful that he loses his powers for X amount of time afterwards.
What if we make him gay? Like, you know what I mean? They did all sorts of zany shit.
What if he fired rainbow beams out of his hands, which I thought by the cover, is he got Ray that turns people gay? And I thought it'd be interesting if he also had the one that turned people straight again, or gay people straight, but that beam was just like a really dull grey kind of colour.
Yeah.
Like, you're boring and you're boring now again.
You fucking boring hetero.
Exactly. So speaking of that, the first one we're looking at is one where Superman has some new powers.
Yes.
Superman 125.
Yeah.
And it's kind of infamous now because for the cover and the contents.
Yeah.
The cover being he's shooting rainbow beams out of his fingers.
I mean, it is kind of cool.
Yeah, but again, like me, I'm the kind of fan who's like, he doesn't have that power. and here's the thing, thinking about that, right? There's this thing with like this fantasy kind of stuff, and especially superhero stuff, where like nerd fans like me will get angry about like, he hasn't got that power.
Yeah.
And people who don't understand or just don't care will be like, why are you critiquing the rules of a man who flies or whatever?
Yes.
And that's when you have to reply with the more pretentious level, kind of like you build the world and set the rules of the universe, and then you have to follow them. Or if you do break them, it has to be in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
And that's the problem here, is that he didn't have this power, then he had the power. And
it wasn't particularly interesting.
Well, so the power they showed on the front, it's quite funny because they do kind of bait and switch for like no reason.
Yeah.
Because what they do is they show on the covers like, don't, and it says on the writing on the front, it's like, don't tell anyone else what Superman's new power is. Like, don't spoil it for other people.
Yeah.
And it's him shooting rainbows out of his fingers.
Yeah.
And then you get to it, and what it is he's lost his powers for some other reason.
Yeah.
I tried to read this.
Doesn't make any sense.
No. But he lost his powers for some other reason beforehand. And then he's like, those criminals are getting, like, no, he's like, luckily I still have my invulnerability because I like shooting bullets at him. But I've lost my super strength, like, on everything else. So what can I do?
Rainbows!
Well, it's like, my hands feel tingly. And then it's like, Superman, I think that might be nerve damage. But and then he's like, the rainbows shoot out and they just solve the crime.
Yeah.
And then the reporters are there immediately. It's like, Superman, what's this new power you've got here? And he's like, I just shot these rainbows out of my hands and it answered my wish to stop the criminals. So it's like, so do you have wish granting finger rainbows? Is that the power? And then, so that all happens. And it's something to do with he touched a rocket. I'm remembering now.
Yeah.
He touched a rocket and that affected him somehow. That's a very common theme in all these comics. It's like, oh no, a rocket or a weird
something
stone
from space.
Yeah, I'm been affected.
An extraterrestrial MacGuffin.
Oh, yeah, something like that, which then is resolved by the end of the issue.
Yeah.
So he does that, and I'm like, okay, so that's the power. That sucks. And then he's like, oh, no, I'll use my finger ray things. Oh, hang on. Instead of a finger ray, what's happened is I've made a little Superman that shot out of my hand that has all my powers.
But didn't he just get that power for a bit to make tiny Supermans? That was canon for a while, wasn't it?
Well, in this, because then by the end of the issue, spoiler for a comic from the 60s, so the story is of this one issue is he becomes jealous of little Superman because little Superman is saving the day. And also he loses all his powers when he shot the Superman out.
Yeah.
But because he hasn't got his full powers, he needs to shoot out the little Superman.
Yeah.
Again, really badly written.
Yeah.
And then he shoots out little Superman. Little Superman's like sawing everything, and he's like controlling it like an RC car or something. Yeah. And then they're like, "Oh, little Superman, like you're the best." And he's like, it's bloody me who's shooting him out. Why is everyone congratulating him? It's like I'm Superman. He's just a little version of me. Like that is genuinely the story. And then it gets to a point where it's like, oh no, a kryptonite meteor is heading to Earth. I'll send little Superman. hope nothing bad happens to him. Like, you're literally wishing death on your little clone because he's more popular than you. Superman was a real asshole in the 60s.
Yeah.
Like, I did not know this.
No, he wasn't the noble sort of best of humanity that he is now, was he?
He was just the best because he was the strongest and most powerful.
Well, yeah, but the thing with Superman, like post-1980s, is that he is the best of us, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's only the best at this period because he's just the strongest. He's like, well, of course I'm the best.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'll fight crime and justice and whatever.
Whereas, and I thought this like all-American hero, good guy thing was a trope that extended all the way back. But it turns out, you're right, in the 60s, he's like way more fallible to hubris, right?
Yeah.
Whereas modern Superman, it's like the kind of fundamental fabric of the character as it's been codified in later decades is that he is a good dude.
Yeah, I think with it, what happened was, again, pure speculation on my part. I think from the late 30s onwards, it was like, he's saving the day and beating the criminals.
He can jump over a tall building like a cricket.
Exactly. Therefore, he's good. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And I think then by the 70s, or even the 60s, what you got in the 60s, like hippie movement power kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he was therefore a bit more of that authoritarian. I got it in the end. Authoritarian, like, hey, stop that, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that started to bleed into like, he's a bit of an arsehole now sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't then until the 80s when you had the kind of anti-hero and morally great stuff. It's like, we need to make him not just like the strongest and the best. He needs to be the goodest. Yeah. I think that was...
The goodest.
The goodest boy, I think, was what he needed to be.
Like a really well-trained Labrador.
Or like Krypto the Superdog, which I will mention at the end. I should have mentioned up top. Going to talk about the Superman film at the end that I've seen and you haven't.
Is Krypto in it?
Yeah. He's big in it. He's like one of the...
Is this the Gunniverse one?
Gunniverse, yeah. Beginning of the Gunniverse. I'm going to tell you two things about it without overtly spoiling all of it. But we'll save that till the end for listener retention and all that. Get through the ad break, which I don't think is a thing on this podcast yet. Anyway.
So, I mean, you never know.
You never know.
This could be the week.
Or retroactively. Like, years from now. They're like, put all the ads on the old episodes.
This could be the week that Manscaped come a-calling.
Oh, we could do with them. I could do with them for sure.
Manscaped?
Yeah.
Messy bush?
No, the beard. They do beard stuff.
Oh, I thought it was just pube stuff.
I mean, I've never used them. I just assume they are.
This is the sloppiest unpaid Manscaped ad read I've ever heard.
Oi, buy Manscaped. Anyway, that's the read. So I think Superman's powers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he shoots out, and then he's like, oh, meteorite, like, maybe little Superman will die, and I'll be rid of the little fucker. And then little Superman's just sorted it.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's doing what I would have done.
Yeah,
like,
if only I had my powers.
I would have done that. I would have done exactly that. And so then he's walking along, he's like, bloody little Superman. And then some gangsters work out, they get some kryptonite, like a little meteorite of kryptonite.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you noticed, I went back just to be like, how did this all happen?
Yeah.
There's one little panel, and it's of these gangster-looking guys, so like 40s gangsters, suits and all that. They've got a big-ass catapult.
Yeah.
And they load the kryptonite meteorite in there, like, aim it for Superman, and we'll kill him. Right? No mind the super speed and all that bollocks.
Yeah.
Like, just launch it. Like, we've got precision catapult technology.
Siege warfare.
Exactly. Just launch at him. So it comes flying at him, and then Superman's like, I'll send little Superman out there, he'll help, whatever. And then little Superman, like, rides the meteorite like a bloody rodeo thing. And he's like, he's surfing on the meteor and taking it away from me into, like, getting away.
Little Superman saved him.
Yeah, but then he's like, little Superman, like, I guess I'm not that mad at you now because you saved him alive. And then
it's from start to finish, it's quite frankly ridiculous. And I think it really epitomizes.
Also, little Superman fades away. He doesn't like die and has a little corpse. He just he disappears.
Away. But I think it really epitomizes just how camp and kitsch comic books were at the time. Well, again, I mean, this is the worst of it, isn't it? This has to be like the peak.
I mean, in terms of like him getting a superpower and then a story happens, like these were tropes of just every issue. It's like something happens, we've disrupted the status quo, but it's fixed by the end of the issue.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much it. Because, like, buy the next issue because the story was good. Not buy the next issue because the story's continuing into the next one. But again, the biggest problem with this is they were like, just introduce a new superpower, let's have a story about it, and then just get rid of the superpower at the end of it, right? And again, that was just becoming the issue of like, we cannot keep track of all these, not only powers, but like characters and new origins and all this. And to also make a little Superman, and for the story to be big Superman is jealous of little Superman. I think at that point they were like, well, we've written the story where he makes a little Superman. What do we do now? And then they were like, he gets jealous of him. Like, yep, all right, that's lunch.
Done.
Like, yeah, exactly. So I think that's why we started with that one, just to emphasize why these are so bad at the time.
Yeah.
So now we are skipping ahead about 10 years or so, or however long, to the little team-up story.
Oh, Superman Muhammad Ali. So
you earnestly enjoyed this.
I did. I think the thing that I liked about it the most is that... So I don't know how much of Cassius Clay and then Muhammad Ali's interviews you've consumed in your life.
I've seen like the highlights where he's like, he does the poetic kind of, he kind of does the original like cutting a promo, like a pro wrestling promo.
Totally. Like, and between him and the fight promoter who promoted him, Doc.
Oh, I know who you mean. Big crazy hair.
Yeah. Big.
Oh, yeah. Was that Mike Tyson's? No,
that was Muhammad Ali's.
Okay, you can tell we both know lots about boxing.
Rumble in the Jungle,
Yes.
you know, all that stuff.
Joel Frazier.
Joel Frazier's going to be sitting in a ringside seat. You know,
you're going to see the launch of the first black satellite. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Muhammad Ali was a potty mouth, right? But he was articulate, and he had like this very recognizable rhythm and cadence to the way that he spoke when he was performing. Because, you know, so there's sort of two sides to him. He was an incredibly technical boxer who really pushed the sport along, like boxing before and after Muhammad Ali, heavyweight boxing before and after Muhammad Ali, two different sports. Like, he changed the landscape. He changed what it meant to be a heavyweight boxer. He was lighter on his feet. He was more nimble. He moved his body in a different way. He controlled the ring in a different way. So there was that side to him, this incredibly proficient, talented fighter. But he brought a level, he brought boxing into the Beatles era, almost. Like he upped the theater of it, right? And so he had this really recognizable cadence and rhythm and these speech patterns and certain phrases and words that he favored.
Potentially he became the first draw in boxing. Like people went to see it for him, not just to see the boxing fight.
Boxing was incredibly popular back then. Like boxing, I think for a modern audience, boxing's had a bit of a resurgence over the past couple of years. I think some of the YouTube celebrity boxing has done that. I think, you know, there being these great characters in boxing right now. Like, whatever you say about Tyson Fury, he was a great character. But back then, boxing was a much more popular sport. I mean, people boxed in the military.
Boxing's kind of been usurped a bit by UFC.
Yeah, no, I think it has been. But blood sports just weren't popular for a decade or two. You know, they weren't as popular as they used to be. But, you know, that generation of adults in the 1960s, a lot of them had served in the military in the 1940s in World War II. So they'd all boxed in the army, you know, like that was one of the things that you did when you were in the military was box, because they wanted you to be able to fight. And so it was a popular sport that a lot of people had kind of done in college, and, you know, it was a more common thing back then. But Muhammad Ali was such a notable presence. And I think what this comic book did really well and was really interesting is they put his speech patterns onto the page in such a great way that it really felt like, even though it was super silly and super camp, it really felt like I was watching Muhammad Ali hang out with Superman.
Yeah, be in this universe. I think it helped that Muhammad Ali was one of those, I mean, like this is early television, early like television, everyone's home, that kind of thing. So he was probably one of the first people who had like a cadence that people copied and stuff.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Writing him in this, on the one hand, it's might be easier because again you've got all this footage and interviews and stuff to make it to get that unique voice onto the page. But on the other hand, it's then because everyone knows it, if you don't do it well, it looks even worse, or it reads even worse.
And I think Muhammad Ali was he was a really interesting figure, wasn't he? Because, you know, that kind of midlife change to Islam, and his pacifism and his reluctance to go to Nam.
Yeah, that's the best thing he did, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he was a conscientious objector, and he he chose prison over Nam, right?
He has a really great quote about it, which we can't say.
Yeah.
or we shouldn't say, put it that way.
But
I'm electing us not to say it.
I 100% agree. But it meant that there was these two kind of cultural threads in the 1960s. There was the hypermasculinism that was a throwback of the 40s and 50s, and then there was the sort of pacifistic hippie movement. And Muhammad Ali had something for both.
It's also kind of weird that like one of the most proficient fighters in the world at that point then became the most famous pacifist.
Yeah, I just think it makes him this like incredibly divisive sort of figure and somebody to really admire, and there's a lot of complexity there. And so to see that counterposed against Superman, who and again, you know, one of the things we've talked about is that at this point Superman stories are wacky but very simple.
Yeah, I mean, this one is slightly different because it is a one-off celebrity special.
Yeah.
So we don't know, because we haven't read them, what Superman stories were like in the 70s.
Yeah.
Presumably, they were still building up and ramping up that craziness of, you know, new powers, new origins, new whatever, and then just redoing them the next issue. But for this stands out as it is that single issue story, but also it's because it's a one-off celebrity issue.
Again, a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah.
But one of the things I took from this is that they fight on an alien planet, don't they? They're not on Earth.
Planet or ship, but the main thing is that it has the red sun.
So it has the red sun, so
yes.
Superman has his powers.
Yeah, there was a bit where I was almost a bit confused because beforehand they were like, Superman's like, I know their planet's under a red sun and that's how they're going to take away my powers kind of thing. And then later they're on the ship and it's like, preliminaries present where you'll be fighting under this red sun, and Superman and Muhammad Ali are like, and I'm like, are they faking that or are they genuinely surprised?
Because it means that Superman will have his powers, doesn't it?
No powers. Red sun is the Krypton sun, so that's where the Kryptonians didn't have powers.
Which is how then, because then Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, is fighting essentially just a hench dude.
Yeah, exactly. Who is used to fighting with super strength and now doesn't have it.
Yeah, and then because I think the really interesting thing is when they're talking about boxing, again, heavyweight boxing leading up to this was a slugfest.
Well, one of the fun parts about this is, so a little bit on what little story there is. Alien comes to Earth. He's like, I need the strongest human to defend the human race in a contest.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali's like, well, I'm the strongest human. And Superman's like, well, hang on a minute. And then it's like, you're not human.
Bear in mind, at this point, Muhammad Ali is playing basketball and dunking on people.
Oh, yeah. Just as he does. And he's modest enough. Someone's like, wow, you're the best at basketball. He's like, I'm only the best in the ring. When it comes to basketball, I'm just terrific.
I'm just really good.
How very modest of you, Muhammad Ali. So then, they have a little argument because they're like, Muhammad Ali's like, you're not even human.
Yeah.
And Superman's like, I'm actually a naturalized citizen of the Earth. The United Nations have confirmed it. And it almost felt like, don't know if we'll leave this in or not, but it felt almost like, is there about to be like, in this universe, a political argument about whether naturalized humans can compete in human sports?
Yeah. Because that then gets us into some very relevant topics for right now.
Which we are not going to touch.
Not touching with a fucking barge.
Don't have the space for it, or the relevant experience, or knowledge, or adultness.
It's just not
maturity.
Fun.
And it's not fun. So, they, regardless of that, the aliens like, well, we'll have you both or whatever. We've got red sun, whatever, blah, blah. So then they're like, well, you have to fight our champion. One of you does. Maybe you'll fight between you. So then Muhammad Ali's like, hey, like, we could fight. I do not even know how this next part of the story happens.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're like, let's train together because one of us will fight the champion.
Yeah.
So Muhammad Ali teaches Superman how to box. And Superman's got his own little red sun in the Fortress of Solitude. Because why? Because obviously. And it's not quite the giant penny or the T-Rex of the Batcave. Superman just has everything else. So they are teaching each other. And also, they do the Dragon Ball Z time vault thing. It's like, don't worry, I've got this thing that's kind of like Dragon Ball Z where a minute equals a week or something. So we can have more time to train. So then you get to a splash page of Muhammad Ali teaching not just Superman but the reader how the basics of boxing.
And wasn't that fucking cool?
That was a really fun part. I was like, this is I would have this as like a poster on itself.
And as the martial artist who's like done a lot of one martial art and a bit of boxing in my time, pretty nailed on. Like,
Yeah.
he is teaching him solid fundamentals.
But what's nice as well is he is describing the point of each type of punch. So he talks about jab, cross, the hook, the uppercut. But he describes them in ways of like having an argument with someone.
Yeah.
So it's like the jab is like the opening, like get someone's attention.
Yeah.
I want to argue with you. The cross is like, we are arguing now.
Yeah.
Like confirm it. And then the hook is like, and that the hook starts as a question, but then you land a statement.
Yeah.
And he's literally, it's like the question mark is like the path the hook takes.
It's really cool and well crafted.
And then the uppercut, I can't remember that one. But it's a fun poster of a splash page.
Yeah.
Of like him just demonstrating them and having this fun little like bit of writing with it as well.
Yeah.
That just kind of it explains almost like the vibe and the feeling of boxing, or at least as it was to Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Also, a writer could have written this without Ali having anything to do with this,
Yeah.
for all we know. But it felt like how he would describe boxing. So it was good on that front at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that page was worth the price of admission for me. And this, I just thought this whole story was really fun and like.
Also, if you're about to start and stuff, when they get the red sun in the Fortress of Solitude, and he's like, "Don't worry, I've got a red sun," and Ali's like, "What does that mean?" And someone's like, "Well, what that means is try and punch me." And Muhammad Ali punches him. And that was how Superman, to demonstrate that he didn't have powers.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't got powers anymore. Look, shoot me in the chest with a gun that'll kill me. Like, that probably was a better way to prove that.
Without invulnerability, taking a punch from Muhammad Ali would have fucking hurt.
And Ali's like, I didn't hold back because I didn't think I needed to.
Because I thought you were Superman.
Yeah. And Superman's like, oh, it's fine, whatever.
And he proper gets him, doesn't he?
Yeah. And he goes down, but he doesn't get knocked out. So maybe that's kind of building Superman up a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say, as the attention to detail comic book nerd, I always thought that this was Muhammad Ali knocks out Superman without any kind of caveats, and I was always a bit like, come on, like, come on.
No, I think the way they approached it makes a lot of sense. And I love the fact that Muhammad Ali wins, but by decision.
Well, but then it turns out not to be that.
Yeah.
So spoilers again from a comic from the 70s. They do this fight in quote marks to determine who's Earth champion to fight the alien champion.
Yeah.
Ali knocks out Superman, and then Superman has to be carried away, and he's all beaten up and bloody and stuff. And then one of Ali's entourage are running around the alien spaceship or whatever. Because the reason they're doing this all, by the way, is because the aliens got a space fleet about to attack Earth. So that it's basically the Rick and Morty, show me what you got. It's basically that, like, fight our champion or we'll kill the Earth.
There's so many times where we read a comic book from way back and then kind of find a Rick and Morty story in there.
Yeah, and it's because Rick and Morty just are so good at doing those tropes.
Yeah.
Because even if you can't name a one-to-one, like, everyone knows that kind of, like, aliens have come, they've demanded to see the leader, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so one of Ali's entourage running around the spaceship. We're like, what's going on? And he beats up an alien. We're like, this is a bit weird. And he gets to a control deck, and then he lifts up the mask, and it turns out bloody Superman's doing blackface.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was probably nothing at the time, but it's not aged well.
This is the one moment for me that was like not cool. And
just to be clear as well, when I say blackface, I'm exaggerating a bit. He has like a full mask.
Yeah.
He's not slapped on like, paint or makeup or anything.
It doesn't. Right. So I'm going to say a thing now as a white man that I am not qualified to say.
Wait, you're white?
The listener doesn't know.
Well, they do now. We could have said anything.
It doesn't feel intentionally racist.
No, it's a plot point. Like, I think that is all it is.
It doesn't feel intentionally racist, but given the cultural meaning that has later been ascribed to that particular act, it does feel racist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, here's the thing. Could they do something like that on, like, so the Mission Impossible franchise, right?
Yeah.
They have a false face, like, technology that they keep using for plot points, blah, blah, blah. But if they did that on a Mission Impossible, like, would that come across as bad? Or is it just a person?
I think any, like, because I had this conversation once with somebody whose family were really into Morris dancing.
Okay.
And there is a practice among certain groups of Morris dancers maybe not Morris dancers, but like a traditional form of like some kind of West Country folk dancing with the bells in the circle where they will do blackface. And for a long time, they were really protective of the tradition because it had to do with their local heritage as coal miners. And so it was done as like it was like some ritualistic thing, and it harkened back to honoring like coal miners. And so they're like, we're blacking our faces, but it has nothing to do with black people. And it's a tradition that, you know, spans back potentially further than like chattel slavery or whatever. And they were very protective of it. And I think culturally it's been deemed really insensitive, and now the practice is dying out. Don't think that's a bad thing. I think, you know, if a group of subjugated people find a thing offensive, then it's a bit offensive, right? That's my take on it. But it's one of those things where it's like something that is ultimately well-meaning because of the rest of the cultural influence around it, then kind of is seen as quite sadistic. And I think that's what's happening here, is that it wasn't like, let's make Superman black up. It was Superman is pretending to be Muhammad Ali.
No, not Muhammad Ali. One of his entourage.
One of his entourage, sorry, yeah.
Who was a guy, I think, famous in himself, but I didn't know him. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but it's like he's impersonating a specific person who happens to be black, right?
Yeah.
So the intention behind it isn't specifically racist, but that act of like a white person impersonating a black person has taken on such a profound cultural meaning that it can't be perceived as anything other than that now.
Yeah, basically.
And again, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think as white people, we should just stop painting our fucking faces black.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's like a cultural practice that we should defend, but also I think it's like ultimately quite well-meaning here.
Yeah, I think what happened is, I think to surmise this little part, is basically a while ago, but not as long as you'd think or like to be, some people were so overtly racist with the act that they've just made anything that's even remotely resembling it uncomfortable and a delicate topic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem that's basically happened here.
Racist spoiling blackface for the rest of us. That's a fucking sentence. That'll get... If anything I've ever said on this podcast is going to get us cancelled, it's that.
Well, I was about to ask, you want me to leave that in?
Yep. Yeah. I stand by it. It's a funny joke.
Also, you were just almost extremely to the left and non-racist of everything you just said up until then. So what a reveal to be like, haha, I was actually racist the entire time.
I'm a horrible racist.
Exactly.
Well, no,
that's going to get clipped.
That's the bit, isn't it? That people are going to turn into a short, and it's like, you heard about that, Jamie, from the Comic Glitterer podcast?
Yeah, some people will probably do it. Some other people who we don't
it's
know will
you,
probably...
isn't it?
Some people will probably do it. Anyway, back to the story. And basically what happens is Muhammad Ali does fight the alien champion, and he's obviously better than him.
Yeah.
But in the process of beating the champion, he also dismantles the dictatorship of this alien that, again, I was trying to read, but I was like, I can't really follow it too close. Also, some being turns up at one point to be the referee, and she's like a Greek god or something, and she referenced like knowing Caesar. And Ali's just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that tracks.
Like, okay, again, it's a celebrity issue, so it makes sense they would do all this. But it just so happens that Muhammad Ali is not only the best boxer, which he legitimately was.
Yeah,
he's really good at basketball. Maybe he was. He's squares up to Superman, like tries to fight Superman while he's fully powered.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a good idea.
That's ballsy.
Yeah. And then just faces down alien champion, just no problem at all. And then is shown some godlike being who it's got to be the referee for some reason to allow psychological warfare within the boxer match because the alien champion takes umbrage with that or something. And I was just like, I can process this absolutely. I'm so good at everything. And like, fine.
What a cool
like,
guy.
Sure. And then, and Superman does some shit at the controls or whatever, and I think that and then it gets to a point where the dictator, he's out, and the new aliens are like, yeah, we're going to take over from him, and we're not as bad. Yeah. And Ali's like, cool. And then, so they go back to Earth, and Ali and Superman are hanging out. Now they're pals.
Yeah, they're buddies.
I stole this from the Weekly Planet podcast, but it just applies to all superhero stuff.
No, you're not allowed to use it. We can't use pilfered content.
But it's nothing else does it better. It is the
You're
superhero
going to have
trope.
to try.
They fight for a bit and then they're mates.
Yeah.
That is this.
It's so true.
It's too good. So right at the end, they're hanging out, and Muhammad Ali's like talking to Superman, and he's like, "Yeah, thanks, Clark Kent." And I'm like, of course he worked it out, because he's also the smartest person in this as well. And he was a really smart person in real life.
Yeah, he was.
So I don't know why I'm getting angry about it, but it also feels like you're giving him a bit too much. They do at least explain how he knows.
Yeah.
Because Superman at one point is like, no, when he first meets the reporters, and he's like, Clark Kent's like, "There's no film in that camera, Jimmy." And, oh, God, no. Superman knew there wasn't any film in the camera. And he's like, only Clark Kent was the only other person who knew there was no film in the camera. Then Superman's like, but how do you know I didn't use my X-ray vision? And then Muhammad Ali's like, because if you use your X-ray vision, it would have destroyed the film in the camera. And I'm like, of course Muhammad Ali knows that as well about physics and photography.
Yeah.
Of course, he knows everything. He's the best.
Of course, he's a physicist.
And has a dark room and develops photos in it or something.
It's just great start to finish, except for the really racist bit.
Yeah, the bits that I actually read were fun. And the bits that I skimmed seemed boring, and I skimmed them anyway. So I'm glad I skimmed them. Anyway, that's Superman versus Muhammad Ali. We've got one last one within this episode, within this first part. And this one is the dumbest one that I think that we could have done at all.
Yeah.
And basically, the story is Superman almost makes a sex tape.
Yeah, this was short and stupid.
It was so bad. And it's a shame as well, because it features some great characters in a really bad story.
Miracle Man?
So Mr. Miracle is a really fascinating character. He is actually not the first story by Tom King I read, but the first story that made me really invested in Tom King as a writer. Yeah, as a writer. He just has this series. It's not even a series. It was a limited series, like a short run, and it's just so good. It's about, you would really appreciate now, him and his wife, Big Barda. They have a kid on the way, and it's dealing with
Big Barda.
new parenthood, and he's got dealing with his fucked up past, and like trying not to like let his trauma like affect his future child and that kind of stuff. Great series. We will do that at some point. I don't know if it's very well known, but you, I think, would love it.
Okay.
And Mr. Miracle, the character, basically with him is you've got these characters called the new gods, right?
Yeah.
Jack Kirby creation. After he was shafted from Marvel, he went over to DC, and he's like, I'm going to make you some great characters you can use for decades afterwards. Because fuck
they
Marvel.
Never did.
No, they still use them now.
Okay,
yeah, that's
cool.
how good Kirby was. They just like could make all this shit. So part of that was you had the good ones and the bad ones.
Yeah.
Can't remember any of the good ones, but the leader of the bad ones is Darkseid.
Yeah.
The guy who was sitting in the chair with the cup of tea.
Darkseid was cool.
Yeah. Darkseid is basically DC Thanos.
Yeah.
So what they do, these two factions, is to ensure peace, the Prince of the Good and the Prince of the Evil swap over to ensure that the two planets won't kill each other.
Like taking a ward in medieval England.
Exactly, yeah.
Theon Greyjoy.
Yes, this was more kind of like mutually assured destruction kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although the thing is, Darkseid doesn't give a shit about his son.
Yeah.
And the son of the good people was a kid who was basically trapped in his dungeons for like his entire childhood and early adulthood. What happened was that child, and it explains it a little bit here. I don't know if this is still canon. He meets a guy who's like an escape artist. Basically, the character, Mr. Miracle, becomes an amazing escape artist because he keeps escaping from the dungeons of Apocalypse. Problem is, once he's escaped, he's like, well, I can't go home because my whole point of being here is to ensure, again, this peace.
Peace, yeah.
So he just gets recaptured again. Then breaks out again, gets recaptured. And that
becomes his hobby, essentially.
Exactly. Well, it becomes his only thing he does in life.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets so good about it. So that's Mr. Miracle. In this, he's living on Earth with Big Barda, presumably, and he comes home at one point. His lock is like 6 locks that he has to like pick them all just to get in, because that's what he does. And then he gets in, and Darkseid's just sitting in a chair, and he's like, "Look at this video. It's Big Barda and Superman about to have sex or something."
So weird.
And he's like, "Why is she wearing all that makeup? Oh God, what's happening?"
Yeah.
And Darkseid's like, go to this address. because I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
I don't actually care how this turns out. Go to this address and you can stop it or whatever. So at the address, there's basically a pornographer whose surname is Grossman, because obviously it had to be. And there's another character who I forget the name of, never seen him before, but he's got big, creepy teeth and smile.
Yeah.
And he's hypnotizing Superman.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I've got Superman under hypnosis, the most powerful being on the planet. Should we make porn? Seems like the best thing to do right now.
Was video pornography even a thing in the 60s?
I mean,
it must have been.
I think it was more, was it the smutty cinemas? I think that was the thing here.
Because home video wasn't a thing yet, was it? There was no way to like, you had to go somewhere and watch it on film, right?
Yeah, I think 80s was the decade of the VHS, wasn't it? Maybe even
late
70s.
Yeah, I suppose you get Betamax and then VHS in the 80s, don't you?
Although, very fun fact, Betamax was considered better. The reason that it didn't succeed, a lot of people
expense, wasn't it?
Well, people blame expense and marketing. What it was the VHS, for whatever reason, was better at filming and recording pornography too.
Really?
And that's why the VHS was
it actually porn?
Put it this way, I've read that somewhere. I've not double-checked it.
It's so interesting, because as soon as we get a new technology as humans, one of the first things we do with it is go, how can this make masturbation more convenient?
Oh yeah, one of the earliest videos, like as in like moving film images, was a girl topless brushing her hair or something.
Yeah.
Like people were just like, what should we do with it?
Some of the first photography was pornographic.
Yeah. What's something that I want to record in private and then get to someone else to show in private?
Yeah.
So like that's what they wanted, the convenience of not having to do live sex constantly.
Live sex concerts. That's great.
So yeah, they want to make porn with Superman. The guy wants to break Superman, his will or something. Yeah. Oh no, he wants to corrupt him, whatever. So he's like, I'll hypnotize him, then I'll make him do bad stuff, and that is how I win.
It's canon that Superman fucks, though, isn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, he's got kids, like, so by the strictest law, but he's also pretty monogamous. Well, it's pretty monogamous with Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And not a hint of kink or anything like that.
Yeah, do you reckon it's like missionary in the dark? Which doesn't matter to him because he can see in the dark, can't he?
I think it's more that, like, really well-adjusted. Like, you know, I mean, imagine being well-adjusted. But, like, that kind of well-adjusted where, like, he doesn't need to do anything else.
I can't even imagine being well-adjusted, Ryan.
Well, this is what I'm saying. But maybe the most well-adjusted man is just happy with missionary. Maybe the lights are off, maybe they're on. Like, he's not that concerned. He's just enjoying the moment for what it is, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't feel the need to spice things up because he enjoys so much what he's got already, you know?
Because he just loves sugar sandwiches on white bread.
Exactly. He's that kind of guy. But he's like genuinely happy about it as well. He's not doing it because he's told anything else is evil, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I imagine. He's not like Daredevil who's constantly got that Catholic guilt, so he needs to like have the most depraved sex with as many beautiful women as he can.
The ante.
Exactly. Yeah. Superman is content. He doesn't need anything. He doesn't need to prove himself, you know?
Guy.
Exactly. So I wouldn't put him in Top Shagger. I would have been happiest person, but I wouldn't put him in Top Shagger.
I mean, our Top Shagger rankings are getting much more detailed and complex.
It's why I always say, and I'm considering.
It started out as a Dick Grayson joke, and it's just escalated.
I might have to change the intro of the podcast and also like the written like tagline for the podcast to somehow the most pretentious yet most lowbrow comic book podcast.
Yeah,
because I think we strive for that.
We hit both, don't we?
We talk about like the character arcs of characters in stories and like the pacing and
the profundity of vintage racism, and then it's like, I wonder what Superman's like in bed.
Exactly. Yes, that's Comic Lario podcast to a T. So yeah, this for what the story's worth, Mr. Miracle turns up as they're about to fuck.
Yeah,
and obviously stops it.
But it's not Big Bertha, is it?
It's Big Barda.
Is it? But it's not her, is it?
Yeah, no, it is her.
But is she also hypnotized?
I assume she must have been. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember it being explicitly stated.
Either that or she was like, oh, I too must have been hypnotized.
And is she really pregnant at the time as well?
No, I don't think she's pregnant. But I didn't get that at all.
Oh, it was the Tom King story, but I only skimmed this one.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
I only read the parts where I was like, this is awful. And I was
Yeah.
just confirming my bias of how bad it is. Basically, my one note other than the Grossman thing is it's basically just a cuckold story.
Yeah.
Because even though he stops it beforehand, they still have a little bit of like Superman and Big Bad are like, yeah, I can't quite remember what was happening, but it's got like bits and pieces. She's like, yeah, no, me too. And they're like facing each other, and Mr. Miracle is seen between them, just with like a disgusted look on his face of like, I was like, there's that meme is the, holy shit, it's the writer's barely disguised fetish.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this story was, essentially.
Wonder Woman.
Of all people to be cuckolded by, fucking Superman. Like, it just read to me as like, and for the be kids as well. Like,
yeah.
I think they really skirted the line of like, this was Comics Code approved, apparently.
Oh yeah, this is Comics Code Authority era, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from like the 40s, 50s onwards, basically. Yeah. So how they got past this was like, we're gonna get Superman, we're gonna ruin his decency, we're gonna make a video of him and Big Bada kissing. And she's got a bikini on, kind of. And that's all that's going to happen. Yeah, and this video is going to be played in CD cinemas across the world. That's the story, kids.
That's all that's happening here, children.
Yeah, it was dumb. And I think this is literally one of those comics that's just, here's a crazy thing that happened because we had a really batshit insane writer for a week, and now it's just stuck in the annals of history, Superman history.
Right. Are we ready to wrap up and have 5 minutes on the Gunniverse?
Yes. So, yeah, I saw Superman, saw it opening night, but this episode is going to come out well after that, so that's irrelevant.
Well, next week. But
yeah, but it was great. It was really fun. It's interestingly, I found it to be James Gunn's, it wasn't as good as any of his Guardians films, but it was the best Superman film, in my opinion. People are going to compare it to the Chris Reeve ones from the 80s. Yeah. And it's that similar kind of style. The problem, one of the only problems I had with it, there's a lot of like blatant exposition. Again, the pretentiousness of the podcast. We hate our exposition. I was literally in the cinema surprised at some points where a character's like, yeah, it's doing that because of this. And I was like, Gunn, you don't do that in your films very often. Like, it's weird that you've gotten worse in it just for this. Like, the Guardians films, and even his Suicide Squad film for DC, they have a good balance of like exposition seeming like the characters would just say that. Yeah. You know, this had a lot of like, why is this happening? Another character's like, well, it's happening because of this. And the first character's like, like there was a few points I was like, that's weird. Beyond that, take that out. Everything else is great.
Yeah. So who plays Superman?
Sorry?
Who plays Superman?
It's a relatively new actor called David Corenswet.
Any good?
Yeah, he was great at it. He really he balanced the stoic good guy Superman when he's in the costume. Yeah. But as Clark Kent, and also in private with Lois Lane. So there's a bit in the trailer, so people already know about this if they've seen it, where Lois Lane interviews Superman. But he's just sitting there as Clark Kent, but he's like, you can interview Superman, I'll be Superman for the interview. Yeah. And not realizing that she was going to get in some tough questions. Questions about, should he have intervened in this fictionally Middle East conflict that's definitely absolutely not Israel-Palestine, and stop saying it is, everyone. Yeah, because it's definitely not. Don't worry about it.
Definitely not Israel-Palestine.
But so she gets into like, hey, should you have done that? Like, allowed to do this? Like, you think about like representing America, and as truly both Superman and Clark Kent, like he's in private with the woman he loves. He's not either or, even though they've only been dating for like a month at this point. But he's just himself. He's not Superman nor what. As himself, he gets really worked up. Yeah. He gets really like, I was just going to save people. Like, I wasn't representing anyone, like that kind of. And he gets really kind of like worked up about it to the point where it felt more real. And it didn't feel like Superman. Yeah. But that's what then was good about it. Because it's like the guy who is always that, again, stoic, good guy, like beacon of calm and, you know, hope and whatever. He would lose it in private. Yeah. And he loses it as Superman later. Like, there's a point where he barges into Lex's office and Lex knows that he's got the upper hand and he's not going to do anything. And Superman's like shouting at him, and Lex is literally just sipping his like coffee, like really smugly. And there's a point where literally he knocks a desk over and Lex just picks up his drink before the desk gets launched. Yeah. And he's just like calm himself. And then it gets reversed later in a great way. So great overall, really good. The two bits that I want to tell you about are midway point minor spoiler and a big spoiler for the end, for like the post ending, which you'll love. One by is a great encapsulation of the DC universe and how it works here is at one. So thread through the film is there's a lot of people like, oh, Superman's really popular. Everyone loves him. And Lex is always like, there's a lot of online chatter about people who don't like him. There's a lot of people online who, different, whatever. And then it turns out that while they're in a pocket universe of Lex's where he imprisons all his enemies or whatever, that he takes Superman to, he has an army of monkeys that all have these little helmets on who are typing Superman hate on the internet.
Right, love it.
And what's so good about that is, you're like, in this technology stuff and in this modern age, he could have just had an AI doing it.
But it's monkeys.
But the superhero shenanigans, which makes it so uniquely DC, is, of course, it had to be an army of monkeys that writes it. So that was fun. The other part, which you'll enjoy, is the bit at the end, is we get the reveal of Supergirl.
Oh, rad. Who plays her?
It's the girl from House of the Dragon. She played a younger character. Millie Alcock, I think her name is.
Yeah. She's British, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was really good. She's in the right at the end. She's been partying on other planets, specifically planets with a red sun, so that she can drink alcohol and get drunk from it.
That's rad.
And what is that the original premise of? That is where we find her in Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which they're adapting for the film that they're going to be releasing next year.
Fuck, man. One of my favorite comics of all time.
Exactly. I literally saw, as soon as she said that, I was like, that's good. Like,
that's cool, man.
That says to the nerds like us, like, oh, they're doing that story. Really awesome.
We're getting that Tom King story as a film.
Exactly.
That's fucking cool.
So yeah. Anyway, go see, if you somehow listened to this podcast and haven't seen Superman yet, go see it, is all I can say. So yeah, we're wrapping up this first shorter episode, this one, but we went longer 1 or 2 ago, whatever. And maybe another one will come out in the future.
So thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you, bye. And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe to get notified of our future episodes as well. And if you're feeling particularly generous, then please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. If you'd like to get in contact with us, then send an email to comiclit@gmail.com. You can also watch videos by me on the Comic Stand YouTube page, which is linked in the description. Thank you, goodbye.